Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Fox 23 News at 5:30. I'm Rick Marinon. Today marks 23 years since one of America's darkest days. I'm about to introduce you to Paul Berriff, a journalist who went to the World Trade Center only to be buried under the rubble of both towers. You've likely seen his footage before. A lot of the shots you will see in this segment is not file video, but it's from Paul's camera that he still has. Mr. Berriff, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to start in chronological order, if that's okay with you. Where were you on the morning of September 11th before all of this happened, and what were your plans for that day?
Okay, I was in New York with my film team. I'm a British television filmmaker. I was making a television series, a 15-part series for Discovery Animal Planet, about their ASPCA unit. And I was in the Upper East Side, about 2 miles away from the World Trade Center that morning. And we were planning to go out and arrest a woman that had been abusing an animal that we'd taken into care the day before. The time was about 8:45 in the morning, and I was ready just to proceed with the investigators and my team to the woman's address when someone rushed into the office and said a plane had hit the World Trade Center. So I thought, interesting. But we were renting several apartments next to the World Trade Center, 2 blocks away in Battery Park. And every day we used to see small aircraft flying around, and we thought, like most people that heard the news initially, that it was a small aircraft like a Cessna or something that had hit the building. But being a newsman myself, being brought up on news, my news instinct kicked in instantly, and I grabbed my assistant producer and sound recorders and said, let's go and have a look. So we set off from Upper East Side, and we're on the FDR Drive going south. We've been on it about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we suddenly saw this black smoke drifting across the East River. And then within a second or two, both the Twin Towers came in view, and they were burning. So we didn't know then that a second plane had gone in, but both the towers were on fire, so we knew that something very suspicious was going on. So we continued down the FDR Drive in heavy traffic. We got to the Brooklyn Bridge, and there's a police roadblock there. And I thought, well, we're not going to be allowed any further. I flashed my British press card at the police officer that stopped us, and I said, British television, and to my surprise, he waved us straight through. And as we got closer to the World Trade Center, we could see these black objects sort of falling from the building, and we wondered what it was initially, but we soon gathered that it was people that were jumping, so we knew then it was pretty serious. And we got to the Staten Island ferry terminal, and we couldn't get any further because of crowds of people that were running away from the area, from Lower Manhattan. So we abandoned the Jeep, we grabbed the camera gear and sound gear and started to make our way towards the towers. We could hear sirens and quite a lot of hullabaloo going on with people running towards us. We were trying to go against the flow, people shouting and screaming, but eventually, within 10 minutes, we got to the base of the South Tower. And as we got there, the Assistant Fire Commissioner, Steve Gregory, was just arriving with his team to set up the Incident Command Post in West Street. So here I was in a major incident with the guy that was going to be sort of running the show. So as a journalist, I couldn't really have been in a better place. Or so I thought, and so we all thought. I started filming Gregory, who was recording all the units and engines and ladder companies that were arriving. The officers were coming to our position and Gregory and his team were sending his men across the road to both the towers, where they were meeting other chiefs who would send them up to whatever floors the people were trapped on. So that's basically how it all started. We were filming him for about 20 minutes with crews arriving and being dispatched into the towers. I was in the middle of one shot. I was recording Gregory making notes of all the units that had arrived and that were arriving. And there was suddenly a loud explosion, and I panned my camera around and upwards. Literally, we were only like 200 feet from the base of the South Tower, and I panned my camera up, and just to see the top of the center collapsing towards me, it was fanning out like a big umbrella, and all this debris was hurtling towards us. I could hear Gregory and the other chiefs shouting, "Run, run, run," and they all started running down the street. I stood in my position with my sound recorder Lulu attached to me, and I think I must have stood there for an extra 2 more seconds, which doesn't sound much, but when you've got 450,000 tons of building coming down towards you, it can be quite frightening. I was looking through my small viewfinder on my video camera, and I didn't have the full perspective of what was going on, but obviously something told me to get the hell out of there. And because the buildings were so high, it was taking time for the debris to come down towards us. But after 2 seconds, I decided enough was enough, and I shouted to Lulu to run, run. So we started running down the street. The fire officers were about 100 yards ahead of us by this time. And I caught this terrific noise. It was like being on an airport runway with jumbo jets sort of coming over the top of you. Just a terrific run. It was getting louder and louder. I couldn't see what was going on because I was focusing on where I was running. But my camera knew what was going on. I had it pointing over my shoulder here, and it was still filming. The next thing I remember was the camera leaving my hand in slow motion, and everything went black.
When we come back, Paul Berriff wakes up in the dust and rubble of the World Trade Center searching for his co-workers and friends. Stay with us.